And with every ebb, there's a flow. You know the term like ebb and flow?
Nope, I don't, but I'm gonna pretend I do and nod and smile. Hi, hello.
Well, hi, Gieneyra. How are you?
I'm good. Doing a lot of self-care lately. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been quite a year, and I think we're here, and there's some recent news regarding of you and your employment status.
We know each other from my previous work at Artworx LA.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to be joining the Inner City Arts team as the CEO and president. So
I'm just really happy, to know that, you're, hopping over into this other thing. You inspire me,
Oh, I love hearing that. To be sitting in this space with you again is really exciting, and I mean that in like the truest form. Like when I think about the work that I do and the opportunities that I've had, you're definitely a memory for me of like why I do this work, because I get to hang out with Gieneyras. I get to see you grow as an individual, as an artist. I have this saying that every once in a while the universe conspires in your favor, and I really think that this is one of those moments. And I tell the universe every day, I'm like, okay, thank you, and move into the next phase.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's what these kind of art programs kind of do, at least for me, because it felt because I was struggling in school, that to me growing up, that felt like the only option of having to be successful, what was important. And but going through with these art programs, just helped me realize that this isn't the only way. There's more options available, and that because I would have never imagined my life being attending inner city arts. Things kind of always work out in that pathway.
And I think something to remember, nobody's path is linear. Nothing is linear, and that's why programs like Inner City Arts, that's why we exist, because people should have space, like a landing spot, right? That's all. We're a hub, and what you make of your experience is really up to you. But you have a support network that's going to be like, okay, yeah, oh, you're going to go this way, okay, oh, here we are, oh nope, take a turn, okay, you're going to go this way.
Yeah. There's so much growth that's so beyond whether it's finding your artist voice, or healing yourself and through just the difficulties of life, or just trying to catch a moment to breathe, whatever it is that you make for yourself, as you were saying, that's what I don't know, just those art spaces were able to provide those kinds of things for me, And I guess one of the questions that I wanted to ask was you mentioned that one of the reasons you continue to engage is because you get to see us grow and develop. But how does that how about yourself within these processes?
So just in my own, I guess, my professional trajectory or whatever, my life, the arts are integral to just who I am. I still love to perform. With a dance background, I like being active in that way. And I think it's also a space where I feel the most comfortable. And I've said this before, that's when I'm really myself, is when I am performing, or when I get to share that side of me. So I carry that because that definitely is so important to any of the work that I do. The work that Inner City Arts does, how we impact students, how we can serve students, that is just as important to me. And I want to have, not be at a distance from that, because I am running the organization, and yes, and I am thinking about the budgets and the fiscal responsibilities and fundraising. But I would say that I haven't let go of my artist side to pursue this other side. I've been able to hold on to both.
That's interesting, because I think a lot of what you're sharing kind of sounds it sounds like serving your community kind of feels that's the kind of thing, and I think for me, coming from my perspective of what I find important or value in art, and like how it serves me is like, you know, putting like what I believe, like my like agenda, message, beliefs out there, you know, to create like a kinder, better world. And
you actually touched on something that I think is such an important lesson to learn earlier than later, not necessarily learn, but really embody. You said you use your art as a way to express how you want the world to be, right? And using your art for change. And I honestly, I don't think that I came to that realization that I could use my art as a way to engage social change until I was much later in my dance career. I think I came from it like, I love creating, and I didn't know that I necessarily could also use that as a voice to like express my feelings or my unhappiness with certain things.
Right. Something that I learned this past year that you touched on was that like what got you interested in the arts? Like I was gonna ask you as a question, which is like the joy of just create, like simply just creating, and that in its own form is something beautiful as well, where it's like that, it's like such a good starting point to remember that like sometimes it's okay for art to just be like something to simply enjoy for yourself and just to get through in the moment, you know. And
certainly.
And then that next level as like an artist is to kind of be like, what message am I portraying by like expressing this, you know, and like how is this going to affect other people, like, you know. So it's like there's different levels to it, and there's no right or wrong way to go about it. But yeah,
that's definitely true. There is no right or wrong. I mean, you can do art for art's sake, just as a means of expression, and you know, for oneself. It can also be in conjunction with community building, or like really something outside of oneself. And I think they're both valid, and whichever path you choose is totally valid. And I just remind myself that, you know, for me, I like to be on both paths, right? The arts is definitely, it feeds me, but I also see that, like, how can I use this not just for myself? And that's just a choice, right? It's because I think, you know, using art as a tool for change, using your platform like to you know, key terms that are very popular right now, to resist, which I think is important. Using your art as a means to push the norm, whatever that norm is. I think that's been done time and time again. And, you know, look at any major cultural shift or a cultural revolution, a moment, not just within American history, but I think in global history. It's the artists that like start things churning, right? You're like, oh, you know, this is
that makes me feel good about myself, like
push, right? I mean,
like hearing that was very like, like, yeah, like I do like do something, you know. And I was thinking, what was life for you growing up, you know?
So I grew up here in Los Angeles. Elementary school, Shelby, did not identify as an artist. I was an athlete first. I loved sports. I still do. And it wasn't really until college that I took more dance classes, and I had taken dance classes just as a hobby. But that's really where I came into like, okay, no, I think I want to do something with my dancing, because there's something about it that just, it feels so right. I ended up taking a dance class just kind of for fun, and it was a technique class, and I was like, I really like this. I noticed in the dance world, it just made me feel more comfortable with myself, right? And I think it starts there, just being like, oh, this is me, this is my body, this is like, yeah. And the more that I danced, oddly enough, the more I started talking. I've always been kind of quiet. I'm not shy, I just choose me. But yeah, something about dance and like having that space and like just being so big and bold, I was like, I started talking more, and like I was like, I think there's something here. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. It took me a while to come into my artist head, I think, but I'm glad that I did, and I'm fortunate enough, knock on wood, that, you know, I had parents that supported that effort, because I don't know that I would have pursued it like wholeheartedly if I had someone saying, oh, I don't know if this is a good idea.
Right.
So, and I say that because I think as an adult, as a parent, I know that I have some sort of agency over making that an easy transition for the next kid, right? So if parents are like, art, really? Like, is that a thing? Like, you know, I'm the sounding board. No, it's okay. And I like, that's why I'm in the right place, right? Because I want to, you know, to totally simplify it, I want to pay it forward.
Right.
I had that opportunity. Somebody else should.
You mentioned how, like, you know, you had like parents who like supported you, you know, because I think that's what I appreciate about like programs like, you know, what you're doing, you know, like the adults that I connect with these programs in like inner city arts and Artworx Delay. Like, even though like they're art related, I mean, I found something more. You know, I didn't know what I wanted to go into the arts. Like, you know, I was always artistic, like, you know, in elementary, middle school, and then like Artworx LA and having these adults like kind of, you know, continue to see something in me when it came to my creativity was like, oh, whoa, like I have value, you know, I have something to offer. You know, my parents, like, you know, their priorities are completely reasonable. Like, you know, I think there's this narrative along being like, you know, a person of color who's like first gen, that like your parents sacrificed you to be here and you need to like get scholarships and go to college to become like sustainable, like, you know, to take care of yourself and whatever dreams you want, you know. And usually the association with being successful is like, you know, having a house, a car, and being in some sort of like STEM job that makes a lot of money, like a doctor or a lawyer. I think what's also important is like the kinds of people you meet in like these environments. Like, I think it's a space that feels safe, you know, and it's like there's like, and learning to find those things and kind of take it into, you know, into a professional career and meeting those people in those like professional careers.
You brought up two really interesting points. One, this idea that these spaces, right, are more than just the art making itself. I think the arts creates communities, and it creates literally a physical space where people get to be themselves and other connections are made. That's why we exist as organizations. That's why Inner City Arts is here, so that that people can figure it out, right? Having organizations like Inner City Arts that is making space for that to happen. And you have the support of adults that are like, okay, and now what, Gieneyra, right? You're the driver and we're just here, you know, we're in the back seat just going like, okay, yeah, like that. Or yeah, okay, no, maybe. And then the other point that you actually mentioned, which I think is really interesting, and this is like me, I'm gonna get on my soapbox for a second, because something that I want to push back against that is becoming like the societal kind of modus operandi, right? The way of doing things is, okay, we have young people and they don't know what to do, or they're unsure about the direction of their lives. Like, here's a pathway, get on it. And you go with that. As much as I am for, and I use the word pathways, right? And I think those are important. Young people shouldn't have to make that choice, right? Because you are a person of color, you're a first generation, that shouldn't limit the amount of time that you have to explore. It's like, get on your path and then stick to it, right? That's how, you know, and it's like, wait a minute, just give me a second. Like, at 18, at 20, you shouldn't have to know how everything is going to play out.
Right.
But you should be surrounding yourself with positive influences that are going to help you to the next step, which is going to help you.
And then thinking about inner city arts, like what's beautiful about like, at least their like WOA high school program, their work of art high school program, is that they like, it's a mixture of both, you know? And I think where it's just like, if you want to go more arts, here's more arts. I mean, for me, the pathway that I felt like was always expected to go towards was like the like educational like STEM pathway is like they also provide resources for that pathway if you still feel like that's the way to go.
Wait, I have a question for you, Gieneyra. So what was it that got you interested in inner city arts? Like, what was that first thing that you're like, oh, I want to try this? And then second, what is it that has kept you involved? Like, what kept you going back or trying?
So I've been very fortunate in that, like, I've been able to like just dip my toes in a lot of nonprofits that are connected to LA and like supporting, just youth. There was just some event going on, and I was like, I went to that event, and it was Fighting Shadows. It was like a performance by someone who just like was like a gang member, went through the prison system, and then like has now like recovered from that as like, an actor and a performer, like a theater performer. And then years later, I went with one of the teachers at Artworx LA to the Inner City Arts Career Fair, and I saw there was like all these like booths and tables and like a lot of students there, like my age and stuff, and like all these like professional arts, and I was like, what is this place? So I asked one of the people in the front like what the space was, and they told me that it was like an educational like place for like students, and I was like, yo, like send me an email like when you got classes and stuff, because like I'm super interested.
So once you got in the door, right, you say that second experience sounds like you're like, okay, I want to try this. So then what kept you?
The thing about a lot of these spaces is that like meeting adults like outside of the environment I'm in, that like it kept reminding me that like this is my life. Like my life isn't the what I'm stuck with, that like it can change. I don't know. So I think it's healing for me. These like spaces, like they're a safe space, and like they help me just like have a clearer mind about like the steps I'm making in life, and like there's just much growth lately that I'm gonna cry just because like I feel like I've just grown so much, and I'm like I don't know, like I'm just really thankful, for that.
To be in a space where you're doing some like self exploration and like these aha moments, and I just have to say I'm so proud of you. Like watching from a distance, like I knew from the first moment I met you, like, oh, everyone was like, Gieneyra's got something, and that's what it is. It's like, it's not, I don't know there's no word for it.
I think one of the it kind of like delves into top, but one of the questions I wanted to ask was, what do you think the world could use more of,
I definitely think the world needs more empathy. I think we have forgotten that everybody's experience is valid and valued, and that one experience doesn't supersede another. And you can apply that to everything, to politics, to any sort of system, right? If people are coming at any sort of problem with more empathy, then I think you reach a solution where everybody benefits.
I think respecting what different people value, and learning that this is your experience for yourself, and learning to appreciate others and their own processes too, and not being like super like envious about it, and being like, we're all just here.
We're all just here.
I love our conversations always with Shelby. Like I don't know, like I appreciate your existence, and it's super happy. Like I'm super happy to see you be in inner city art. Like your presence is like,
it's
a blessing, So yeah.
Oh, I'm super excited to be here. It's really, it's pretty special. You get the goosebumps.
So Shelby, thank you for joining me in this wonderful sunny day with this conversation. I just super appreciate you, and I'm really excited to see you in person again.
Thank you, Gieneyra. I'm really excited too, and I'm so thankful that even in this crazy world that I get to reconnect with you in this way, and then to meet other students from the Work of Art program and from all of our programs, because this is what fuels me to continue to do this work, is knowing that it serves you and others like you. So I'm super excited, and this was wonderful, and please let's keep doing this.